Velma, 2023. In 2023, HBO Max released a Scooby-Doo show without Scooby-Doo in it. It was called Velma, and it didn't just flop, it got demolished. HBO Max hands the franchise to Mindy Kaling. She calls it a bold reimagining. Here's what that actually meant. They changed the ethnic backgrounds of half the main cast. They made Velma South Asian. And then, they cut Scooby-Doo out of the show, the one the whole thing is named after. Gone.
The greatest team of spooky mystery solvers ever. This is my story, told my way.
In interviews, the team said they wanted to push back on straight white culture being the default. They said they wanted the show to be about racism, about toxic masculinity, about queer theory. Cool, fine. But Scooby-Doo was a mystery cartoon, kids solving crimes in a van. That's it. That's the whole thing. And they removed the very identity of the show for some woke messages. Then, if you actually try to watch it, Velma's mean now. She gets these long speeches where she just goes off on everyone. And then there's Fred. In the original, he's the leader, the guy with the plan. Here, he's basically the show's punching bag. Every scene he's in exists to remind you he's a rich white guy who never earned anything. The jokes are all stereotype stuff. The plots are all about people saying the wrong thing and getting called out for it. It's not a mystery show anymore. People hated it. Fast. Velma dropped to one of the lowest rated shows in the history of IMDb and Rotten Tomatoes. Fans said it felt like a betrayal, like they traded everything people loved about Scooby-Doo for a message that nobody wanted. The Powerpuff Girls, 2016. Cartoon Network reboots The Powerpuff Girls. New animation, new writers, and a whole new voice cast. The old show worked because it was two things at once: superhero action for kids, and jokes sharp enough that adults would sit through it. The reboot dropped the action and kept the girls at home. Now it's their daily lives plus contemporary social issues, online culture, social justice, modern feminism, basically the whole woke package.
Remember 2 weeks ago when I made that Mojo meme generator?
That was you?
Or when I made that Pug Your Mug app?
Blossom's the organized one, Bubbles is into coding, and Buttercup, whose entire character was being tough, gets an episode where that toughness is reframed as toxic masculinity. That's the pattern people picked up on. Every trait the original show gave these characters got treated like a problem to be corrected. Being loud, being tough, wanting to fight, all of it now needs a lesson attached. And it's not that any of that offends anyone, it's that it's boring. You took a show about 3 little girls punching a giant monkey and turned it into a show about 3 little girls talking about their feelings. Original fans tore into it. The wit was gone, the fights were gone, and what replaced them wasn't good enough to justify either loss. It found some audience, it ran 3 seasons, but nobody quotes it, nobody rewatches it, nobody makes memes out of it. The original still gets all 3, 25 years later. Q-Force, 2021. Netflix greenlights an animated spy comedy about a team of gay agents. The angle is that queer characters never get to be the leads in the genre, so here's a whole show where they are.
I can stand before you as my true self. A gay man!
The setup? Agent Mary is a brilliant spy who comes out as gay, gets shipped off to West Hollywood as punishment, and builds a crew of other sidelined queer agents to solve the cases the agency won't give them. Netflix marketed it hard to LGBTQ audiences. They wanted a moment. What they got was the show getting rejected by everybody at once. Straight viewers said it was too preachy, that every episode had a lesson about homophobia baked into it. The even bigger problem was the queer audience, the people it was made for, said the jokes were old, that the humor leaned on the exact broad stereotypes the show was supposedly there to push past. That's the part that killed it. You can survive one side hating you. You can't survive when the people you built the thing for say you got them wrong. So it ends up as neither. Not a spy comedy because the activism keeps interrupting the plot. Not a statement because the audience it was speaking for didn't accept it. Santa Inc., 2021. Sarah Silverman makes a Christmas show for HBO Max. The pitch? A female elf wants to become the first female Santa Claus. The creators weren't selling it as a fun holiday special. They said the point was to take apart patriarchal Christmas mythology and look at the whole thing through a feminist lens. The North Pole isn't the North Pole anymore. It's a corporate boys' club. Santa's a nice boss man running an outdated system. And then the show itself is filthy. Constant swearing, adult humor, graphic stuff, all of it aimed at Christmas. For a lot of people, that wasn't edgy comedy. It was just a shot at their faith and their traditions.
More American kids believe in you than they do in vaccines or the Holocaust.
That's great. I mean, disheartening for America, but great for us.
Here's how bad it went. The trailer became one of the most disliked videos in YouTube history. People hated it before a single episode dropped. There was no second season. Nobody expected one. And the frustrating part is the concept was fine. A woman wants the job, the system won't give it to her. That's a story you can tell at Christmas. But they didn't tell it like a story. They told it like a political narrative, and then they made it crude on top of that. Nobody wants to be lectured about the patriarchy by a swearing elf in December. Masters of the Universe Revelation 2021. Netflix hands He-Man to Kevin Smith, a guy who genuinely loves this stuff. The trailers are all He-Man, the posters are all He-Man. Fans are hyped. This is the return they've been waiting 30 years for. Then episode 1 happens. He-Man dies. Skeletor dies. And the show becomes a story about Teela. That's the whole controversy right there. It wasn't the writing, it wasn't the animation. It was that people showed up for their childhood hero and got told he's not in this. Teela finds out Adam was He-Man the whole time, feels betrayed, quits, becomes a mercenary, and the show follows her trying to reforge the sword. And look, that's a real story, but it's not the story anybody was sold. The backlash was instant. Fans called it a bait and switch, and the woke label got slapped on within days. The argument being they sidelined the male lead to push a female one. Teela's redesign and her angry, resentful attitude poured fuel on that. Rotten Tomatoes and YouTube got review bombed. Critics' scores stayed high, audience scores fell off a cliff. The second half of the season actually brings He-Man back properly. Doesn't matter, nobody was watching by then. Here's the thing though, the show didn't fail because it had a woman leading it. It failed because they marketed one show and delivered a different one. If the trailers had said this is Teela's story, half this argument never happens. They didn't. They put He-Man on every poster and killed him in 20 minutes. You can take swings with a legacy franchise, but you can't lie to the people you're taking them with. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, 2018. This one's different because it actually worked, depending on who you ask. The fight started before the show did. Noelle Stevenson posts the first character designs in mid-2018, and the original fanbase loses it immediately. The old She-Ra was a swimsuit model build, tall, curvy, conventionally beautiful. The new one is lean and boyish, and the rest of the cast ranges from skinny to round.
Catra?
Oh, our planet needs you. Cool.
Comments rolled in calling her too boyish, saying Netflix was scared of She-Ra looking like a beautiful woman. Hashtag #NotMyShe-Ra trended. This is months before an episode existed. Then, the media turned on the fans. Instead of covering the argument, outlets ran headlines mocking them, calling them angry fanboys who came out of nowhere just to complain about a cartoon. Voice actress Amy Carrero called the criticism sexist. It got heated enough that Melendi Britt, the original 1985 She-Ra, publicly stepped in. Not to defend the designs, but to call out reboot crew members for trashing the old show to sell the new one. Then, the actual series lands, and the showrunners don't hide the plan. The stated goal was to challenge heteronormative assumptions and put LGBTQ relationships at the center of the story. Good versus evil gets swapped for trauma, redemption, systemic oppression. And the emotional core becomes Adora and Catra, enemies who fall in love. Critics adored it, 100% on Rotten Tomatoes for Season 1. Audience score sat at 73. That gap is the whole story. Original fans said their nostalgia was being used to push a political agenda, that the name was a delivery system for something they never asked for. Both sides are right, which is why this one never got resolved. It isn't a flop. It's the fight itself. Mr. Birchum, 2024. Mr. Birchum dropped on Daily Wire Plus, the conservative streaming platform created by Adam Carolla, and they marketed it as The Cure. Hollywood keeps pushing an agenda, so here's a cartoon that doesn't. No lectures, no politics, just comedy again. The plot follows an old-school woodshop teacher trying to survive a modern world he doesn't understand and doesn't want to. Then people watched it, and it turns out Mr. Birchum has an agenda in literally every episode. There's always a woke character to defeat, always a point being made, Always a lesson at the end about how the modern world is soft and stupid. It's the same structure Velma had. Pick a target, write the speech, build the episode around it.
When I was a kid, men were men. Now everyone's wrapped up in feelings.
Only the politics flipped. The show that was made to end preachy cartoons was a preachy cartoon. And the people who called that out weren't the left. It was the conservative audience the show was made for. They said the jokes came second and the message came first, which is the exact thing they'd been complaining about for years. It failed. 3.2 on IMDb. Weak reviews, cheap animation, a theme song lifted off King of the Hill. So, Mr. Birchum accidentally proved the whole point of this video. Nobody minds a message. People mind being lectured. Velma did it from the left, Birchum did it from the right, and audiences shut down both. Make it funny first. That's the whole rule.